So welcome to the first episode of the WATM CAST. I don't know what this is going to be yet. This is the first episode. I kind of just want to talk about the things I like in life, and it depends a bit on the news side. And we're also going to incorporate some movie reviews and talk about things like that. So I don't know what this podcast is going to be. Maybe if you don't like this episode, I'm going to try and do a video in the future, like a video feed, like maybe me, and something to show you guys what we're looking at. Because this first episode is going to debut on YouTube, and it'll probably end up on some sort of podcast thing later on. I just need to get the first one done, get it out there, because I've been procrastinating too much on this idea, and it just needs to be out there, the first one. If you don't like this one, maybe come back in 4 or 5 episodes and try it again. Hopefully it'll have gotten a lot better by then. But yeah, this is the first episode of the WATM CAST. It should be on YouTube, Facebook, and hopefully it'll be on other platforms soon. So today I want to talk about a few different things. I want to start off with some gaming stuff. And mainly I want to talk about what Xbox has just shown, or some of their games that are coming out. The most interesting game to me that they've shown is going to be the new Forza Motorsport. Apparently it's going to have 500 cars, 100 of which are new to Forza Motorsport. I take it that's just Motorsport and not including the Horizon series. There's going to be some typical updates that they come with like every blinking racing game these days. You know, more dynamic weather. They are going to have what they call 20 different living environments. I don't know what they are. They're like related to the weather system or something like that. I was watching the trailer, and one thing that definitely worries me as a Forza fan, and why I'm not a Gran Turismo fan, is Gran Turismo feels more realistic, and it's more like, it feels like you have to know a lot more to play Gran Turismo than it does Forza. I'll openly admit that Gran Turismo is definitely a harder game than Forza, and by the way, they were looking at it, talking about like, oh, the weather's different, and now we're going to have to change something in the car, and oh, I don't really want to have to change my car every single time. Yeah, I get it, there's like snow, put snow tyres on, or you know, some a bit like that. I don't want to have to sit there and think, oh, it's a slight wind, I'll have to put this attachment on my car and adjust for this and that. That doesn't make the game fun to me. Personally, Forza games can be really hit or miss for me. I love like 3 and 4 on the 360. They were great. Horizon 4 was absolutely brilliant. Horizon 5 was okay. Like, obviously, it looks beautiful, the cars on it are great, the customisation's great. I'm also going to say I'm sorry in advance for you can hear the birds. It's absolutely roasting today in the UK, and that bird has decided to start tweeting. I don't know if it's going to come up on the audio, I hope not, but it's either that or have a fan on and close the window, and I'm much sure you'd rather hear a bird than a fan. But back to what I was saying, Motorsport Horizon 5, it suffered to me a scaling problem with the map. They had this massive map that they raved on, oh, it's the biggest map ever in a Forza Horizon game, and there was no in it. You had this map, and you had like, yeah, you had the interesting places, like there's that little Mexican town with all the roads that went like underneath and over, that was cool. You know, you had some places like the little bar house, then you got like miles of just road with nothing really on it. Of course, there's sand and scenery, but it doesn't feel like it's lived in or a place. It just feels like we've copied and pasted to make this map big. Same thing that like Ubisoft games struggle with, is this like gigantic map and there's nothing in it. But that's just my opinion. The game is still decent. I still put quite a decent amount of hours into it. I just don't think it's as good. I hope this Motorsport game is going to be better. Some other games they talked about were City Skylines 2. I personally never played the City Skyline game. When I was interested, I didn't have a computer that could run it. I don't think it was on Mac when I wanted to play it. I'm a Mac user. But it's coming to, Skylines 2 is coming to Game Pass, which I think I'll definitely check out when it comes out. I like those type of sim building your own world type games. One other game, I haven't really looked into this. I've merely just looked at the screenshots. Starfield. Is it me, or does that game look like No Man's Sky? I was looking at the screenshots for it. You know, like I said, I haven't looked into it, so I could be completely wrong and just talking out of my ass. But it definitely looked like it definitely just looked like No Man's Sky. And talking of Xbox and Microsoft, apparently a US judge has put a temporary block or something on the Microsoft Activision deal. Everyone seems to be like creating about this deal. I think even the UK has done it. Something, the EU's done something, there's some sort of plan to like even give Nintendo like Activision games. I think like the Switch might get Call of Duty or something. But that was kind of crazy to me, that every step of the way this deal keeps getting blocked. I know why they're doing it. I get, because like, oh, we don't want to make it unfair for everybody, and yeah, I get that, but at the same time, it's like, just let them buy it. You know, it wasn't that when PlayStation was doing exclusive deals for like Call of Duty DLC and things like that. That wasn't classed as unfair, you know, when they were doing things. I think there's definitely an incentive for them to sell on all platforms, because more money, you know, there's definitely a thing out there. And I think at the end of the day, the monopoly thing, they'll have to keep PlayStation going, so how best to keep PlayStation going than with, you know, Activision games, the Call of Duty games that come out every year and like that. I think Microsoft, at least the Game Pass at the current time, is one of the best things you can buy, because you get access to so many good games. It's not a couple of games a month, and they're probably not good titles like the ones that they give you on Xbox Live Gold, or a lot of the games I've seen on PSN Plus, or whatever it's called, their little thing that gives you a couple of games each month. They never really sound so good. You might get a good one every now and then. But Game Pass is a solid lineup of over 100 games. It's just, you know, you're going to find something on there you want to play. And it's, yeah, it's a subscription, but it's not that much money if you think about it. If you play like one new game a month, I feel like you've paid for Game Pass, you know? So, I'm going to move on now and talk about the new GTA Online update. I absolutely love GTA Online. And the new update was a bit weird. Yeah, they've added some new stuff. Yeah, they've added some more DLC. It's kind of crazy to think that game's over 10 years old now. It's been across 3 consoles and we're still adding stuff to the game. The new update's cool. The new plane looks kind of cool. There's some price increases. I believe now the Oppressor Mark II, you know, it's kind of a problem that they should have stopped a long time ago, because that vehicle is kind of OP and it makes playing the game online absolutely hard because of tryhards and people who just want to kill you for the hell of it. So anyways, I think that vehicle's now like 8 million, if you don't have the trade price. 6 million at trade price, which is a lot more than it was. I think it's like double or whatever it was for that vehicle. But they did one strange thing other than adding some new vehicles. They took away over 180 vehicles in the game. Now, I can't believe they did that, because one of the things that's cool about GTA Online is the car stuff. You know, there's a lot of like things you can do with your car. You can modify it. There's different types of garages. You can do racing. You know, and there is like even car meets on GTA Online. It's kind of just like one of the things that people love about, you know, GTA. It's like this action game, but it also has this car culture thing on there, which I love. I love the vehicles on that game. That's one of the main reasons I still play GTA Online today. But yeah, over 180 vehicles gone, including the vehicles that came out like last year, like the Obey 10F, I think is gone now, as well as the 9F. And it's like they were like classic cars. And one of the things I've noticed is they've got rid of a lot of cheaper cars. There are still some cars on there that like an entry-level person could buy. You can still steal a lot of these cars off the street. You know, anything that's below like $90,000 in GTA, you can still steal and put in your garage. That's no problem, but you just can't buy any of these like entry-level like supercars anymore. Like I say, like the 8F, the one that looks a bit like a Ferrari, the Comet. You can't buy those cars anymore. All the cars like now start like over $500,000. Well, most of them do anyways. I feel like that's a big kick in the face to people that are starting the game, because I believe there probably still are people starting GTA Online. You know, it's a very popular game. I'm kind of good because there were some cars that I was still wanting to add to my garage, and I don't know if they said this before the update came out, but if they were going to do that, I wish they made it a bit easier. One of the problems, I think the reason why they've done it, and why I could kind of side with why they've done it, is because it was getting a bit hard to scroll those vehicles. They've gone through in previous updates and filtered the websites through, you know, and they've added things like 2-door, 4-door, luxury, special, off-road, and that kind of works to a degree. But even in some of those categories, there's still like 100 plus cars to scroll through, and like 3 on the line, and you can have like 6 or 9 on the screen at a time. I see why they've done it. I think what they need is more like a manufacturer's tag, so you can go in and you can search like by like Pafista, Bravado, Grotti. I think if they did that, that would refine the car searching website system that's on GTA Online. I think they especially need to do something with the new game. I will talk about the new cars that they added. They added something that looks a bit like a Mitsubishi Pajero. That car is pretty cool. It's the free car at the moment if you're a GTA Online Plus member. That is a pretty cool car, and it's kind of getting me a little bit excited for GTA 6, purely because the detail is quite cool. If you upgrade that car and you put like, I think it's the racing kit in the back, so it changes the chairs, and it adds some stuff in the back. If you open the back door, there's actually some pretty cool detail in there for these new cars. The engine looks good. it's getting me excited for the detail that we'll probably see in GTA 6, which has me, as I probably already said, excited about that. And I hope soon some people have got some conspiracy theories as well about what are some of the new t-shirts or something that are in GTA now. Like, oh, it's the new trailer could be dropping soon. I hope it drops soon, But we keep hearing these things. Oh, I think everyone thinks this means this. And one of the guys that voices one of the new characters in GTA is doing like a live stream on Instagram. And I want it as much as you guys, but damn, they've been predicting this trailer now for years. Oh, it's going to happen on GTA 3's birthday. Oh, it's going to happen on San Andreas' birthday. I think it'll just happen when it happens, and I think they just like toying with people as well. I think they love hearing the conspiracy theories from the fans. And last of all, on the podcast today, I do want to talk about a film I watched last night called My Dinner with Andre, and this is a film with someone called Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn. I actually recognise the guy Wallace Shawn because I was recently watching The Young Sheldon. Don't judge me too much on that, but I was watching it, I was like, oh, it's that guy. I feel like he has a really unique voice. There's certain people out there that have unique voices, like Morgan Freeman has a unique voice, Nicolas Cage has a unique voice. They don't blend in the same. I feel like this guy kind of sits in that league of having a unique voice. And he kind of reminds me of, like... So anyways, this movie, it's really not much of a movie. You really could consider this the first podcast in a way. It is a film, yeah, it's a film, it's on IMDb. It is a film, but you really could consider it the first podcast. It's basically two old friends meeting for a dinner and they just kind of talk for about 2 hours. It's really, I think it's an hour and 51 minutes or something, so it's about 2 hours. And they kind of just talk about, one talks about his, like, anecdotes of his experiences, why they kind of like come from they're kind of in the same world, but they come from two different worlds. The guy Andre, I'd say he's more accomplished than our other character Wallace, or Wally as they refer to him in the film. He kind of lives more of like this hipster lifestyle. He's going to go across to like some like Asian country, or like off to like Europe, and he's going to go and do some sort of like quirky, culty experiences. He's going to do like spirituality things, almost like some sort of like hipster, and he kind of talks about his experiences that way. There's not really a lot of camera work in this movie either. There's no real sound design in the music. One thing I will note about the camera work is I feel like there was one bit where this guy was talking, the kind of a spoiler alert if you will, where he's talking about having like this near-death experience, like ritual thing that he went on. And I noticed that the camera seemed to like really zoom in on his face, and you kind of had a lot of these really slow zooms in the film, and I feel like when it got more intense, the camera went more on the face. As it was more playful or confrontational, it kind of went back, if you get what I mean. The more deeper the subject, the deeper the zoom, if you will. It's kind of like, you kind of like sit for it and you think, oh wow, we're watching like, you're just watching these two people. There's a bit at the beginning where you see some different parts of the world. There's the main bit, which is just literally the dinner, they sat at this table and they're just talking and talking, and then there's the ending with the kind of like minor reflects on his life experience. But like I say, you kind of got these two people. You got this hipster who seems a bit privileged in a way because he's had the money and the resources to go off and have these different experiences in this country, even though he seemed to be like depressed at some point in his life or something akin to that. And you have this other guy who I think lived like a decent childhood, but now he's kind of like, oh, he can't find work, and he's kind of like paycheck to paycheck-esque. They're both in like the theatre world, so they kind of, that's like their commonality. And what is interesting is that they talk, you got this guy talking about like, they kind of go off in tangents, like a bit like a podcast, so they go off and talk about like conspiracy theories, things about the world, like death and how you like perceive death or like live with the thought of death. And it's interesting to see the two different worldviews talking about it, and how they will confront each other in some parts. It starts off as like, the movie just starts off as more this guy Andre talking about his experience. Now I feel like there are some parts where Wally gets touched, like emotionally, not like physically. He gets touched by like what this guy is saying, because this guy's kind of like calling his life in a way unfulfilled because he has a purpose, and they start talking about like, should we live in like cities? Should we strive for comfort and this perceived notion of a purpose instead of kind of just like living in the moment and living more like on the wild side, if you will, and kind of going with the now instead of like, oh, we must like wake up, do this. And there's this big bit that having an electric blanket and how that's like too much comfort because it differs too far from nature. He mentioned like having the electric blanket means that you're always warm in winter and that we never experience seasons anymore, and how with this it's unnatural because in like a colder climate you'd want to get closer to your partner at night time because to share the body heat, the warmth, and that's more of a natural state of things, whereas this is more of a man-made function. I don't know how what I'm doing, how that sounds. I might just sound like I'm rambling and I apologise. I highly recommend that you go on, if you have any interest in like film in a deeper sense than just just general, you just like generally watching films, but you kind of like the idea of deeper films. I recommend watching this. It's called My Dinner with Andre. It's on YouTube. It's not the best quality. It's probably on some streaming services as well, but you can watch it and you can turn it off if you don't like it. But I recommend watching it because it sounds like the most boring thing in the world. Watch these two guys have dinner and talk for 2 hours. There's not a lot going on. It's literally just a conversation. But it's just interesting. I find it hard to explain. I thought it would be easier to explain. I'm half tempted to watch the film again, see if it changes my perspective, but it's just an interesting watch. It's more of one of those films. It's more of an experience than like a traditional film. It's more of an experience art piece. That is definitely what I think you could call it, because it's kind of like just showing like the beauty of people connecting on a level and kind of like analysing life is another way I want to look at it as. There's some things in there where they talk about how like people aren't necessarily nice to you. They're kind of just like all in their own world, and they just kind of say things that they don't really mean and things like that, where maybe we all don't actually know ourselves because we're all just kind of like going through the motions. I'm going to stop there because I feel like I'm just rambling now, but I recommend to watch the film like I've just said. So this is the end of the first episode. I don't know how this is going to sound. If you've got any feedback, I recommend dropping it. I do also want to include some more like tech news and maybe some other pop culture news in the future. I just felt like I had to get this first episode done. And tell me what you think about it, guys. But I hope you enjoyed it at least. So thanks for listening, I guess, and I'll see you next time.